Hey there folks, Luke here with the Outdoor Good Review. I hope you're all doing well. Today for this episode we have the Biolite Rechargeable Wood Stove. Biolite is a famous company. They have a product out there that's essentially a wood burning stove that creates electricity. So you can charge your cell phone when you're out backpacking and camping and stuff like that. This is a new product for 2016 and it is definitely different than their previous products. Yes, this stove still burns wood, but right here you have a rechargeable fan. This fan will blow inside of this stove, creating a very, very hot stove to cook on to boil your water. This battery bank will not charge your cell phone. It will not charge any device. All it does essentially is blow air inside of the stove itself. So my friends, here is the stove itself. As you can see here, the blower is attached to the stove, and it's very simple to put this on and to take it off. You simply fold this one leg and it pops out just like that. When you want to reattach it, it simply goes up, latches, goes right into that leg, and then you can fold that leg back out and it's fully secure. The construction is stainless steel, very nice quality. The legs are aluminum. When it comes to weight, you are looking at 1.6 pounds, so it is fairly heavy. Now on the inside of the stove you have a lot of air holes, and those air holes are around the top, they're around the middle, and there's also some down at the bottom. You have this grate which goes all the way around, except for the very front of the device. When you take off the blower, you could see right here, the blower basically settles right into that, so all the air gets blown inside of the stove. Now when it comes to the blower itself, fairly small, fairly lightweight. This is rechargeable. It has a micro USB port down here at the bottom, and this charges very, very quickly. In roughly about an hour and a half, I was able to fully charge this from dead. Right here you have the on-off switch. You can hit this one time, and it will tell you the battery life right there. You can hit it again to turn it on. You can see that light right there. And there are 4 different modes for this blower. The first setting is called campfire. The next setting is simmer. The next setting is boil. And the highest is turbo. Now I will turn this around, go back down to campfire mode, so you guys can hear this. So that is on campfire. That is simmer. That is boil. And that is turbo. To turn it off, you simply hold down this button right here. And there you go. Now here's the box that the stove comes in, and there's a few things that I want to go over. Of course, you receive the stove, you receive the rechargeable blower. Everything comes nicely packaged. You also receive this bag to carry your stove in. That's pretty nice. You receive a charging cable so you can charge the blower, warranty information, a card saying thank you, and you also receive the instructions, which I think I lost at the moment. Maybe they're in the house, who knows. Also, you receive some cardboard fire starter, and you will need an accelerant to get this stove going. Essentially, to get this stove going, you have to pack some debris, some very dry leaves, small twigs, stuff like that, into the bottom. Essentially, break off a piece of this, use a cotton ball with Vaseline, some solid fuel. You'll need that accelerant to put in there so that it continues to burn. Then you can pack on the twigs, the sticks on top of that and get your fire going, because there is no way for you to take a lighter or a match and get that down in the bottom to light everything on the inside of this stove. You need to have something that will burn for a while to get the fire going for this stove to work. Had to put my jacket on. It's getting a little cold here, a little bit windy. Let's go ahead, fire up this stove. Let's get a fire going inside of it. Let's boil some water. Let's get some coffee. And then we will start talking about the pros and the cons of this stove. Start with the very, very small, very, very quick to burn debris. Sticks, twigs, stuff like that. Then you need to get your other materials ready. Again, small stuff works best. Take your accelerant, your cotton ball with Vaseline, your solid fuel, your gel, or this cardboard stuff that they give you. Light it. Make sure that it's really burning before you stick it in there. It's burning away. There we go. Make sure it doesn't go out. Put your materials in very carefully. Then you can go ahead, turn the stove on. I'm gonna leave it on low until it really gets going. Now with a stove like this, one that has a blower, you really have to work the entire time to boil your water efficiently, which means that you constantly have to be preparing your wood to throw it in. In my testing, I have found that it works best if you break up the pieces extremely small. During the beginning, as you can see here, it smokes a lot until the fire really takes off. You can blow inside of this to really ignite it, but you have to be careful. So there we go. Now that it's going, we need to work on putting in some larger pieces. And again, they need to stay very small. All right, we'll go ahead and turn this up a little bit. This is on the boil setting. The next setting would be turbo. As you can see there, it goes through the material very, very quickly, and it will take a while for you to get a real nice base of hot coals down at the bottom. Hopefully you can see this, but the fire is jutting up. It's kind of circulating. So here's my pot. It is a very large pot. And there's a reason why I'm using a very large pot. We'll put just a little bit of water in there, just enough for coffee. Now, as mentioned, this stove will go through your material extremely fast, so you just constantly have to be prepping to put more wood in there. Because no matter how full that you could stuff this thing, it won't be able to boil your water the first go around. You're going to have to continue to feed it. You may be wondering, do you have to remove your pot to be able to feed this thing? And sadly, yes you do for the most part. Take a look at the inside. You can see that it's just burning down to ash. And it'll burn every bit of that wood down to ash. You might be able to see it with some of the ash flying out, but it circulates just like this. Alright, once you're done, you can grab the stove from the blower, but do not touch the stove itself. It is extremely hot. You can either leave those ashes in there until it fully cools off, or you can go ahead and dump them out. That is up to you. Alright, coffee time. What I boiled there is about 12 ounces of water, just enough for a cup of coffee. Taster's Nasty for the win. I've heard rumors that Taster's Nasty puts hair on your face. I don't know if that's true or not. Cheers. Now this is part of the packaging here. This goes over the box that the stove comes in. And basically this just provides you with a lot of information concerning the stove. And there are a few things that I wanted to discuss here. Looking at the front, it says cook with wood. Yes, this is a wood stove. But below that it says Smokeless Flames. In my testing, and I have been testing this out for a number of months now, I cannot say that this is a smokeless stove. In fact, it smokes just about all the time, unless it's at that peak temperature where everything's 100% dry and it's just burning to ash. Otherwise, it does smoke, as you saw there. It really takes a while for the stove to get going, and up until that point, it will smoke like a son of a gun. Of course, when you add in more debris, it will smoke as well. One nice aspect is that the stove cools off very, very quickly. Now, when it comes to the blower, as mentioned, this does charge very quickly. About an hour and a half with my testing. That's from dead to fully charged, so that's pretty quick. Now, with the blower here, you can charge this on your computer, wall outlet, or even a solar charger, so that's pretty cool. Now, they say at the lowest setting this will run for about 30 hours. That's the campfire setting. I haven't tested that out fully, so I'm not sure. It seems accurate enough. I would say within a realm of that, so maybe 38 hours, something like that sounds about right to me. Most of the time when you have a company giving you these estimates, it's in the best of conditions, so it's not taking into account that maybe you're out using the stove and it's really, really cold. So I have been testing this out, like I mentioned, for a number of months now, and it has been really cold. The information states that on the turbo mode, this will run for 10 hours on a full charge. I haven't been getting that. I got about 8 hours, and that's with the cold temperatures. I like the fact that you're able to adjust the blower so you can adjust the intensity of your stove. So you can have that campfire, you can simmer it, you can boil it, or you can turbo blast it. For myself, I have found that I like using the turbo. Most of the time, I'm just going for boiling water, and I will just blast that water. I have used the simmer function, and that does work well for like rice and stuff like that. Cheers again. Now, going back to this information here, it states that it's a portable and compact stove. I have to disagree. This is pretty darn big, to be honest with you. Especially when you add on the blower. It's also heavy. 1.6 pounds. That is not lightweight. That's a substantial stove to carry. In addition to this, you still have to carry your pot or your pan, whatever it is that you're going to boil with, cook with, and so on. That's beginning to add up in regards to weight and size taken up inside of your backpack. Going back to this information once more, Smokeless Flames. Enjoy an instant portable campfire without the smoke. There's nothing instant about this in my testing. It's always taken me a lot of work really to use this stove. I like little wood burning stoves, like the Solo stove. That is absolutely awesome. It's a ton of fun just to sit there and feed it. But with this one, you can't feed it when your pot is on top. You always have to remove your pot to throw your wood in. So that adds a little bit more time. To use this efficiently, you really have to move quick. You have to have all of your wood ready to just throw it in. So you get it started, you put your pot on, you begin breaking more wood or whatever and throw it in. Just constantly, you have to be working to keep this thing going efficiently. It states here that this will boil 1 liter of water in 4.5 minutes. I have not been able to come anywhere close to that. For a liter of water, it's taken me roughly 12 minutes to get it to boil in real world conditions where you have a breeze and stuff like that. So, you know, if you're inside of a very sheltered area and everything's just right and you have all of your wood just ready to go, you might be able to boil a liter of water in 4.5 minutes, but I have not been able to recreate that. In fact, for just 24 ounces of water, in some cases, it will take me as long as 12 minutes. So again, in real world conditions, it's going to take you a while to boil 1 liter of water. Now my friends, in front of you here, we have a number of different cook sets, pots, and so on, and sadly, most of these are not compatible with this stove as it is right now. For many of these to be compatible, you would have to have some sort of grate to put on top of this so that the pot can be supported. I will go ahead and give you an example of this. Now, I use this zebra pot to boil my water because it sits perfectly on top of this stove. This is my USGI cup, and this cup is not compatible with this stove. It sits down perfectly right over the hole of the stove, which will put out your flame. So you cannot use a cup like this to boil your water. That right there is a big negative for me because I go out camping by myself and typically I will bring a cup like this and that's it. I will boil my water in this. I will drink my coffee from this. This means that I cannot use this cup with this stove unless I develop some sort of grate to hold it up. That's a shame. Right here I have my clean 40-ounce canteen. I can't boil water in this because it fits perfectly into that hole, which will extinguish the fire. Here's my Toaks 500 milliliter titanium cup. Again, it doesn't work, it puts out the flame. This is my titanium Evernew pot, and it barely works. It sits just barely on top. I've had issues with it sliding around because the top of this is very rounded, it's very smooth. So unless your pot is big enough to really stick out over the edges, it will slide, causing spillage. Now this is an Espit cook set, which I've reviewed in the past. This does work, but just barely. It's also not very secure because the edges are rounded, and so are the edges of this stove. So it's very wishy-washy, topsy-turvy, whatever you want to say. Right here, I have a military surplus item. This is the West German cook set, and this works very well with this stove. In fact, this works better than this pot right here, for the simple fact that this pot is narrow. You could set this down on top of the stove, and it gives you enough of a gap on one side where you can continuously feed this stove. So you don't have to take this off to put more wood in there. As you can see here, we have a problem. We have 5 examples of different pots, cups, canteens that do not work. Over here we have 2 that do. So with a stove like this, the way that it was designed, it's very limiting in my opinion. For my use personally, very, very limiting. Now with these different cook sets here, like I said, most of them are incompatible with this stove as is. You would have to have some sort of grate to go over the top of this to basically elevate your pot above the opening here. That is a shame to me. It's a design flaw that really limits the use of this stove. So before we get to the verdict of my review, it should be mentioned that this stove cost $100. In my opinion, I find that to be rather expensive, considering the fact that you do not receive a cook set with this. It should also be mentioned that Biolite sent me this stove to test out and to review. So when it comes to my review, here goes. I've been testing this out for multiple months, and I have to admit that I do not like this stove. I don't care for it very much. I think it has some design flaws. Personally, I like wood-burning stoves. They're a lot of fun just to sit there and just kind of feed the beast. That's what I call it. But with this stove here, for most cook sets, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to get all your wood ready, take the pot off, throw the wood in, put the pot back on, which just increases the length of your time sitting around this thing and working on it just to get your water to boil or to cook your food. When it comes to boiling water, it really takes a long time unless you're just incredibly prepared. You really have to sit there and be right on it. I do like the fact that this stove burns your wood all the way to ash. It makes cleanup very, very easy. Once the fire is going, it certainly is efficient. The blower does a great job of getting that heat out, getting it super duper hot. It does a great job of controlling just how much heat is coming out of this stove. The build quality truly is excellent. When it comes to weight, I find it to be very, very heavy. 1.6 pounds. This thing weighs a lot. It is also very large. I will flash the measurements on the screen for you now. Talking about just how efficient it is. It's so efficient that it goes through the fuel so fast that it's a real chore to keep this thing fed. It really is. According to Biolite, this information card, their website, and so on, the most important aspect to consider about this stove is that it doesn't run on gas, it doesn't run on fossil fuels. It burns wood. Well, that is true to a point. You do have this blower, which you have to charge, and you charge it with electricity, and electricity is usually generated from burning fossil fuels. So, you know, it's trying to get away from burning fossil fuels, but it's still using fossil fuels. That's one thing that I wanted to point out. So my friends, for our look at the Biolite Rechargeable Wood Stove, that's pretty much it. Sadly, like I mentioned, I just don't care for this stove very much. It's too heavy, it's too big, it's somewhat difficult to use. There are definitely easier stoves out there. Yes, they don't have the blower, but they work just as well, if not better than this one here. Not only is it expensive, but it's also not compatible with every cup and cook set and pot out there. That is a big negative in my book. Another negative for this stove is that you have to carry some sort of accelerant with you. A cotton ball and Vaseline, some of this cardboard stuff. You need to be able to light something and stick it down into the bottom to get this thing to work. There's no way to access, you know, the inside of this stove from the side or from the bottom, and that does limit the use of this stove. I am interested in your opinions. What do you guys think about this stove? What do you think about my review? Am I spot on or am I off a little bit? Let me know. Guys, everybody take care, be well. Biolite, thank you very much for sending in this stove, letting me test it out. I will see you guys around. Strength and honor. Last, I am sure that many blah. I hope you're all this is blah 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 blah. Fuel blah 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 blah. Taster's nasty for the win. Ew.